Well, let's dig into this more with Andrey Telizhenko, who's a former advisor to the Ukrainian Prosecutor General and an ex-diplomat. Thanks for joining us on RT International. First up, how would you describe the current situation with Ukraine's youth?
The situation with Ukraine and Ukrainian youth altogether is just degrading every year. It's been degrading for the last 10 years after the coup, where basically the psychological mindset of the youth were being taught that anybody who's speaking Russian music, any Russian culture, which is our own, which is also Ukrainian. Ukraine was part of Russia for more than 1,000 years, and we were one country, one nation. And now they're being taught the opposite, this Bandera-like mindset that anything is Russian is bad. Well, I remember when in the 90s, being in an embassy when I was still a child, my parents were talking to the diaspora. And we, the Ukrainians, came there speaking Russian. We knew Ukrainian, but we spoke Russian. More than 99% of Ukrainians speak and spoke Russian and understand it. This is the reality. There's no misunderstanding between each other or nations. And the diaspora taught the diplomats, you should not speak Russian, you should only speak Ukrainian because we don't understand you. So that's where it's all coming from the roots of the former Banderites, Nazis who fled Ukraine and now are penetrating all the government systems abroad. And now after the coup, they were pushing this idea into the Ukrainian youth, into the schools, into the mindset of teaching that different heroes, that not the Soviet army won the Second World War, but the Banderites who fought for the so-called independence of Ukraine, which was never there at that time, are the heroes. And this is the reality of the Ukrainians facing today: the hatred towards Russian-speaking population, the hatred towards Eastern Ukrainians who wanted their own view on their independence, on the Donetsk Republic or the Lugansk Republic, which did not want to be part of the Nazi Ukraine. The hatred towards Russians. This is what's been taught for the last 10 years, especially now, with this mindset being changed, with this conflict happening on the ground. It's being pushed to these children where they don't know anything else but hatred towards Russian-speaking or anybody else who opposes Ukraine, or not Ukraine, but the key regime realities, who doesn't want to give weapons, who doesn't want to give finance, who wants peace. They all are aggressive towards them. That's what they're being taught at schools today. And the banning of the Russian language itself is against the Constitution. Article 10 of the Constitution of Ukraine says that the Russian language is protected by the Constitution of Ukraine, and basically the government today tore it apart. Zelensky is not legitimate by Article 110, and he's basically doing and pushing all these ideas radical on the Ukrainian youth to prepare them for a civil war after peace, continue the civil war with Russia or any Russian-speaking languages, or guerrilla warfare to undermine any peace that's going to happen in the near future.
Well, Kiev's education ombudsman claims the mobilization and safety risks are driving school children abroad, particularly, obviously, boys who are nearing the age of 18. What chance do you think there is that those children will return when the conflict's over? Because there's a lot of concern about this.
There's not just 18 that are banned from leaving Ukraine. There's some cases that 16-year-olds are not let out of the country, and 17-year-olds are already put on a high alert, red flagging them on the border and not letting them out. So this has been happening for the last year or so on the border of Western Ukraine. And the reality is, Ukraine is going to lose every one of those children who's going to leave Ukraine. Some of them might come back after there's going to be peace and things are going to change, the reality is going to change, but they're seeing how their fathers are being dragged like dogs to the front lines, how their fathers are hiding in their apartments for 2-3 years like prisoners. They cannot go out on the street because of the enforcement police that are taking them away and basically without any law and order, just throwing them into the buses. So this is what they're seeing, and they have to leave. Their parents give them basically the reality that there's no way out of Ukraine, there's no reality in Ukraine. They're being taught to hate Russia, and they're being left to the West, where they're going to be to continue their basically education in the way the matter that Russia is bad, Ukraine, Banderite is good, Nazism is good, and these children have no future. Ukraine lost a decade of basically of youth and education towards its own basically children, and this is what is happening. I just recently, the Minister of Foreign Affairs took away children who were left Ukraine, who were orphans, who lived in Austria, and sent them back to Ukraine, even though there's still no security or guarantees for them or with the situation within the conflict happening. And they took them away back from Europe and took them back to Ukraine because they need those children, because they have no parents, they have no somebody to fight for them, and they're going to be sent to the front lines to use them as for the war-mongering machine to continue this war. So this is what the government is doing. Any children who have parents, they leave Ukraine. Anybody else, orphans, they do not let them out of Ukraine, or anybody who even left Ukraine during the conflict. Now they're taking them back to send them to the front lines after they get the age of 17 and older. So Ukraine is preparing for this fight for guerrilla warfare using children in the future, like Nazi Germany did with Hitler-Jugend in the last years of their basically being power of the Third Reich.
Well, we're going to need to leave it there, but thank you for giving us your thoughts on that. That's Andrey Telizhenko, who's a former advisor to the Ukrainian Prosecutor General and an ex-diplomat. Much appreciated.